everyone, and welcome to the Throughline Conference. My name is Jordan Hales, and I will be your guide through the outdoors. Now, okay, I have to confess, I am not the most experienced when it comes to the outdoors. My love of the outdoors starts with my grandfather. And the reason why I bring him up is because our first talk, our first conversation or chapter, as we like to call it here at the Throughline, is all about the intergenerational outdoors. What does it mean to take a nod to the past as you travel to the outside? I'm really excited about this conversation because, well, we all live on planet Earth, and it's a shared space that we all get a chance to decorate in our different styles. How we take care of it, how we enjoy it, how we find joy from Mother Earth will all be different, but hopefully pointed in the same direction of soulfully taking care of a space that gives us so much. I am super excited about this first conversation. We will be talking about, well, salmon fishing in the outdoors. I have never salmon fished, so this is going to be super exciting. We will also be talking about completing the stories that our grandparents left for us. It's going to be an amazing journey. And I want to invite the participants to come on in the room.
Hello.
Hello. How is everyone doing?
Really good.
Good. I'm doing good. I'm so glad to take a journey outside of my house. That's what's gonna make this the most amazing thing. I want you all to go ahead and say your names, and then we'll tell a little bit about each of your stories.
I'm Carla Joelle Brown. I am currently directing a documentary about my grandparents, nod to you again, who started traveling by trailer in 1965 and traveled to the 48 contiguous states. And like you, I'm ready to be outside. But I'm happy to be here in this space with you today.
My name is Shlee Suarez Burgos. I am located in Miami, Florida, and I am also very excited to be here today.
Yes, and so tell us a little bit about what's going on in Miami with the salmon and the fishing. What's going on down there?
It's so hot right now, but we left Miami, I want to say like 4 years ago to pursue a professional career in salmon fishing in Washington State, and then it's just kind of led throughout the whole United States, going from like DC back to Florida to Colorado, now back here in regards to helping with fishing in different states.
Awesome. This is amazing. So before everyone logged on, I got a chance to ask by way of someone else where everyone would be if they weren't on a Zoom call. Okay. So I want to share that, and I want to know a little bit more as we start. So Carla said, domestically, I would be beyond the moon if I could be on a road trip with friends in the Southwest, camping, sitting elbow to elbow around the fire, free of any COVID concern. Internationally, I found myself currently under the spell of Luxor, Egypt. We'll be making plans. Now, when I first read this, I first thought you said domestically, I'd like to be on the moon. And I was like, oh, what?
I would do that. I'm up for the moon. I'm up for anywhere right now.
Yes. I love it. So tell us a little bit about the spell of Luxor, Egypt.
I think it was a confluence of events. I've gotten a tattoo a couple years ago, and I was recently describing it to someone, and it has a lotus flower, and I was talking about the symbolism in Egypt, ancient Egypt, and I've ordered this necklace. I was just thinking about where we come from and the royalty that people of color are from. And I just happened to do like a Google search, just looking at the Valley of the Kings. And I know that seeing the pyramids and you know, anything similar to that is on my bucket list. And with everything that's happening right now, I'm just like, if you're not putting those bucket list items to the top of your list right now, then I don't know how you're absorbing what's happening. You know, I've just really been thinking about Egypt and where we come from, and how that royalty has kind of been diffused um, as we come to the United States. And I'm just so mesmerized by this idea of people who left their mark, that we can go back and see. And I was just thinking a lot about that, but I'm making plans. I don't know if it's going to have to wait for COVID, but now might be a good time to go. It's time to throw caution into the wind.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Now, Shalise said that if she could be anywhere in the world other than a Zoom call, she would be on the beach encrusted with sea salt and sweat and sand in all the wrong places. I love it. You took us there. So where did your love of the beach start?
Well, since I'm from Miami, the ocean is no like farther than 20 minutes away in any direction. So it's really common just to like be there at any point that you're not, you know, doing your usual 9 to 5 task or school task. That's where it started. And then like my dad taught us all how to fish with like a yo-yo spool and a hook and like bread from our kitchen. So it just kind of evolved from there. Never thought I would be following this as a career path though.
And so I love the way you described it. You just made the fishing sound so easy. It was like, all I need is some bread and this yo-yo spool, and that's it, and I could be out there. I love that. Well, we're here to talk about the intergenerational outdoors, a nod to the past. And we've got some really beautiful, beautiful stories that are just sitting in this call that I can't wait to explore. Carla, I am so excited about this idea of completing your grandparents' journey. Because as I was reading about everything that you're doing with your documentary, you know, it said that your grandparents started this journey and traveled the 48 contiguous states of the United States of America back in was it in the 60s?
Yes, 1965 is when they started.
1965. And you will be or are completing that journey, right, by going to Alaska and Hawaii. So tell us, what is it like to complete their story versus just going off and doing something of your own?
In short, I feel like a legacy's been fulfilled to some degree. You know, they created this opportunity for me to appreciate the outdoors, even when I didn't understand that. Growing up, it was just kind of one of those light bulb moments where I was like, wait a minute, I realize I've been exposed to this my whole life, and this is such a great gift that everyone doesn't have. So I was like, the least I could do is finish this journey for them. Well, you're correct. We have pretty much finished the travel for everything, and including the Hawaii and Alaska. And I just feel so grateful for that opportunity. And it's just something that I want to share with everyone else, because again, I realize everyone won't have a grandparent that exposes them to something. And everyone's not going to be an outlier and decide to make that choice on their own, that this is something that they're going to do. So I just want to, you know, I'm just grateful for the opportunity that I even thought about looking into the past to kind of create what the future can be for all of us.
Yeah. And so, Shalee, you mentioned your dad and the infamous bread that I now call it, starting you out on the fishing journey. So who else influenced you, or take us into your relationship with your father?
Well, he started it, but you know, there's no salmon here. I don't know, I'm pescatarian, so I have a really strong belief any animal I eat, I really need to understand where it comes from. That's why I pursued a salmon fishing career. It's my favorite animal to eat. I really wanted to understand how to sustainably source it and keep up the population. So it kind of just started from there. And like someone else that really influences me, who I know couldn't make it today, is Crystal Egley. She used to be my old boss, and Crystal made a safe space for me and just like introduced me to hunting, which is a whole new aspect that I like didn't know about, because it is another generational trait that is passed down, and that's not something necessarily attached to my culture. Nor was it like introduced to her. like through her familiar traditions. So it was really like a wonderful experience to like continue that growth and like have her there as like for me to learn about it.
Yeah. Well, Shalee, tell us about the first salmon that you ever caught.
Yeah, absolutely. So I moved to the Pacific Northwest and I actually worked as a distributor because it's a Native American first right. So they are actually the ones to catch it. And then we work with tribes within the Olympic Peninsula. And the first salmon I remember like getting off the boat was a king salmon. And I sent a picture to my mom and it was like, look, Mom, I got to like second base with a salmon. And she thought it was like so gross. And honestly, I just loved it. I love like coming home smelling like fish and like waking up at the crack of dawn and just being able to have that experience, though it was like challenging within its own because I'm just some like city girl who like didn't have that upbringing, so I had to like work extra hard to like prove everyone like why it was worth it. But I ended up eventually leaving and I'm very glad I did because it brought me to a lot of other opportunities I would have not known.
And speaking, I like the way you said that, opportunities that I would not have known. I want to go back to you, Carla, because I want to go deeper into the story of what your grandparents did, because it was truly phenomenal. And we wouldn't have necessarily known what they had done if they hadn't documented their journey. So tell us a little bit about how your grandparents' journey started. Take us back to 1965. What were they doing? How were they living their best lives?
Well, I have to say, my grandparents are very unique people, which was part of the reason I was really trying to think about, is it just me? Did I always think they were cool? But other people would always comment about them. But, you know, my grandfather was a postal worker in 1965, and my grandmother was a school teacher. And at that point, you know, they had my mom and her two younger sisters, and I've come to find out, were truly seekers of the wanderlust because they had discussed purchasing an airplane. They looked at a boat. They looked at a ranch. They thought about traveling the high seas and cargo ships. And this was in 1965. I mean, it still takes a lot for someone to do that now. But it was really just happenstance. My grandfather drove past a parking lot. I think he said it was like maybe a Jiffy Lube when they first started, and saw the trailer and paid cash for it, took it home. You know, we're from Baltimore, took that thing back to Baltimore City, and they just decided that we're gonna see the country. The more I asked them questions, quite frankly, the more dumbfounded I was as far as their answer. You know, especially now that with the passing of John Lewis and him crossing the Pettus Bridge, and you know, that was the year of Bloody Sunday, and you know, they both experienced racism, you know, and I just couldn't understand, why did they think that was a great time to get in a trailer and start traveling around the country. Um, but they did. And fortunately, my grandfather kept a travel log where he documented every trip from the first day to their last trip in 2001. By that time, it was just by car. But my grandfather just said he was going to just document it. He didn't really have any rhyme or reason, but what they spent on gas, the camping fees that they paid, what they did for entertainment. I mean, it truly was a word for word detail as far as what they, you know, documenting their trips. And you know, it was such the counter narrative to what was happening at the time, because it seemed like it was one story for every African American in the United States. And to say that this African American couple decided to do this probably would not be believable. It still isn't at times, but the fact that he had the documentation, you know, I felt like this was my purpose, and this is my role in life, to make sure people understand that, yes, everyone does fall under the same category as far as how we're treated and how we're affected. But just the fact that they decided we're going to see this country on our own terms, to me was really important, even now, because as we see, traveling while Black is still, it's still complicated. It's still very complicated, but there's so much beauty in this country. And that's really what I want everyone to take away from their story and from my journey, retracing their steps, is that there's so much to see. You should never let anyone deny you of that opportunity.
Absolutely. We do always have a choice. We don't know what will happen. We don't know what possibilities are available to us, but we always have a choice. And I know so many people who experience beautiful things, but don't bother to write it down or don't bother to step into an oral history tradition and make sure that those stories are preserved. So I'm amazed, really, even more so about the fact that they wrote it down such that the story would be preserved. And speaking of creating stories based on our experiences, Shali, I know that you are a conservationist storyteller. So tell us a little bit about what that means from your point of view.
What that means is that it's to create authentic stories that necessarily haven't been told through not only our government agencies, but as well as just environmentally focused organizations into the people that have been celebrating it. It's similar to like what Carla was saying, is that like there's that story that's been there and like we need to, you know, it has to be put out there. Like it's such a great experience and there's so many people like experiencing or don't even know that that experience is in existence. So for me it's just more, yeah, just like engaging it and then creating like more of that authentic intention with the audiences to be able to know like, hey, this does exist, like you are here, like this is so that you could see yourself in that as well, and like that space is waiting for you if you didn't know, or if you do know, like this is you, like time to shine.
Okay, so the space is waiting for me to go ahead and do some salmon fishing. My father's also pescatarian, so I've been wanting to, and I used to live in the Pacific Northwest, so I'm going to fish. I'm going to go back. I'm going to fish for him, and I'm going to send him via somehow a nice little care package. No, I love that. That this idea that the spaces are waiting for us. And what are some spaces here in the continental US that you all are looking forward to going to, or that you've traveled to through the stories of someone else?
For me, man, when I was working for US Fish and Wildlife, my story led me to Alaska, being able to work with the Arctic Youth Organization, which are like working with Alaskan Native youth to tell the story of climate change and like teaching them how to use social media and, you know, storytelling to platform that, and to be able to see like the culture and like overall like a new landscape, like oh my god, like just freaking mind-blowing, but also humbling, and a lot of just like a lot of things like I had to learn that I was just being like ignorant, I felt within, from not knowing in regards to that. But it was just, I'm so glad that it brought me that way, and I love my kids. I still keep in contact with them, which is great.
I love that. Another intergenerational tie. What about you, Carla?
I'm gonna agree. Considering all the places that I've been, like Alaska and Hawaii were there's not enough time. Like I don't think even if you lived in Alaska, there wouldn't be enough time to truly explore the vastness of it. And it's just one of those places. Like I've always described it because I grew up in the suburbs of Baltimore County, and we used to have a creek behind us. And in the summertime, you know, this is when kids actually played outside, and you just came home when the light came on, and you were free to do whatever you want. But just that idea of I'm just going to explore, like it's just endless exploration. And you feel that with Alaska, like you could just pull off the side of the road and you could probably easily disappear. I mean, and just see so many things that you never even you could even imagine. And just the difference in the landscape between the water and the mountains and the glaciers and just the wildlife that you see. It's just such an untapped resource as far as like this has been untouched. Like this land is untouched, and I don't want to say there are no rules, but just the idea that you really could just ramble on your own and just find so many things. And it's obviously not the easiest place for everyone to get to, but it's just you have to put it on the top of your list. And also in the summertime when it's like 12 hours of sunlight, that is the trippiest thing in the world, because your body is telling you one thing and your mind is telling you something else. And you'll see people riding their bikes at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and you're just, it's just, it's an amazing place to go. It really is.
I love this idea of expansiveness. I think it's really easy to forget how large Mother Nature is and all of the things that are available that we haven't even discovered yet. Like we don't even know everything that exists. And the idea and the reality of untouched spaces. And I hope that forever that there will always be untouched spaces, but also with our desire to explore, there's a tension there. What is it like to be in a space that is, for the most part, untouched by cities and a lot of different people?
I'm just gonna jump in. I think it was maybe something that was said earlier, but it's just humbling. I think when we're constantly surrounded by noise and you realize how much you're part of this infrastructure of sound and people wanting to get in touch with you and having to go a certain direction or that way, just the idea of being in an untouched space, it just humbles you and reminds you we are sharing the same planet, whether it's between you and the salmon or you and the bear that's eating the salmon. It's like, okay, we're all kind of on the same playing field. Like this is the place we all call home, versus I'm in the rat race competing with all these other humans just to do whatever it is our goal is for the day. I mean, it definitely takes you to a different mentality of, okay, like it's bigger than me. It's bigger than punching the clock. And this is a space that's worth protecting and caring for. And you kind of forget that when you're in your house or in your bubble doing your day to day. But there, it's the untouched space. It's in your face. It's completely in your face that this is bigger than you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that. It allows that shift to happen, and almost that like release of what you're saying, that every day, and as well as just like relief and being in the awe, and as well as just like having the sense to explore the same way we would in like that creek that you're describing, like in the backyard, like during summer. Now you have this entire time space dedicated for you to do that same thing, even like reconnect in ways that you wouldn't think so. Like you can notice more leaf than you would on your everyday, on your walk to work, versus like on this trail you can actually take that time and space available to it.
Yeah. Well, I wanna take, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I was just thinking about just the idea of exploration and being a kid. I think that's the other thing that's important about untouched spaces, is that I think for most adults we kind of get lost in that, okay, we have to adult, and we kind of lose that kid and that curiosity within us. And I try to find it as much as I possibly can, because it's very easy to get swallowed up in the responsibility of life. But I think also with the untouched space, it just makes you revert back to that kid of like, what can I find? What's under this rock? And I think that's important, especially now, because we need to find some joy somewhere, because there's just a lot happening right now. But being able to harness that joy and that childlike exploration and curiosity, I think is more important now than ever.
Yeah, so let's ride the wave of joy. I experienced some beautiful joy outside the other day. I was walking just down my sidewalk and I bent down and I saw a little yellow flower and I was like, it would be really cool to freeze this yellow flower inside of ice and have this in my drink. It would be really cute. So I bend down, I look at the yellow flower, and as soon as I touched it, then a little yellow something dropped. And I was like, is that a flower petal? I was like, girl, no, that's not a flower petal. That is a yellow spider. And I saw the most gorgeous spider I have ever seen in my life. And if you know me, I'm not a spider fan, but it was really beautiful. And I was so thankful that the spider decided to not crawl on me, but to just live its best life somewhere else and show me its colors. So tell me, what is the most joyful experience you all have had in the great outdoors?
And there's so many. I'm definitely gonna say when I did live in the Pacific Northwest, I'm like freakishly obsessed with salmon. I know maybe I'm not saying enough, but I used to just go hiking and like play music, like different styles of R&B music, hoping that like it would help salmon produce like more spawn. I even like tried to submit as a grant for it, which I know all scientists thought I was like insane, but I just really love salmon from everything on like Native American culture to like, you know, the food source to even like salmon as like themselves, like salmon have better smelling abilities than golden retrievers, and they're like nearsighted, so I like identify because I have to wear my glasses because I'm nearsighted, and they're just like so persistent and like having to get back home, and like they don't let anything stop their way. Like obviously if a bear comes, they don't realize that. They're just like, I have to get back home, like I have to go and like spawn for the next generation so that they can continue forth. And they're just delicious. They're like so delicious. I love Barry White the most. I gotta try that one.
So I gotta make sure I understand. So your hypothesis was that if only the salmon could hear the glorious sounds of R&B, that they would be able to live their best reproductive life. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, since that was like the only tools I had available, I don't have like a bunch of kits or like a science degree to back it up. So I was like, what do I have that I have easy access to think that like this might help them spawn more, since, you know, their spawning populations aren't up to date or, you know, able to catch up to the consumption that we eat them at. So yeah.
Beautiful. That is, I don't doubt that there's some merit to that, because we all respond to music. Music is vibrational and it's beautiful. I love that, and I hope that you will try to get another grant for for this experiment and tell us how it goes.
Oh, they probably laughed when they read that. But okay, I'll let you know.
All right, so Carla, talk to us.
Well, again, I've had many experiences, but I think again, in considering the context of our times, I've had some really amazing times with my friends as we filmed for this documentary. So that's kind of why I went, with the whole campfire, elbow to elbow. It's amazing to experience things on your own, but there's always like something extra special when you experience those moments with people that you care about and that you love. So, we were talking the other day, like, oh my goodness, it would be so great to be on a road trip right now, even if it wasn't confined quarters, like we were in the RV. Um, it could be anywhere. I've just had some amazing times just taking it quiet and just having conversations and looking at the night sky. So that experience has happened in several places, but I'm definitely appreciating it more now. Just the ability to share that time with someone.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I love the imagery of being around the fire, because that's where the best stories are told. And my next question for you is all about stories. So what is your favorite story that your grandparents or elders have ever told you of the outdoors? And Carla, I want a specific one from their from their documentary.
The thing with my grandparents, I always compare their travels to Forrest Gump, because I've been talking to them for a while about their travels, and there would always be these reveals or snippets of conversations of people that they've met along the way, which were big deals to us now, but it's just a casual, oh well, there was this guy and we met him at the campground, and I think he was the such and such. So I think one time they said they met the father of John McCain. I don't know. There's just always these random Forrest Gump stories that you're just like, really? Like, that didn't seem like that was a big deal to you at the time. But as far as specific stories that they have listed in the log, I think the things that kind of touched me the most is just when we visited them, or just the little details that my grandfather would write, like, okay, Carla sent us a letter today, and like they'd still have some of the letters that we sent, and I was just blown away by my handwriting and just what I was thinking of as a child at that time. But the thing with them, again, I think the things that we would probably find important as stories weren't things that they were thinking about. It really was just, okay, we met such and such today. The family came to visit. But their stories are just, there are so many stories. Like a lot of it may have been evolved around race. Like I remember they said they went to a rodeo one time, and at that time, I think maybe it was like in the 70s. but one of the riders was a young Black man, and people assumed that they were related to this cowboy, and they weren't. But they got, ushered down to the front, and it's just stories like that that just kind of remind me, okay, like, what were you guys thinking? What were you thinking about? I'm glad that they did it. I'm completely glad that they did it. But those are the kind of stories where it was always like, oh, we've been there, Carla, we've been there, and this is what I grew up hearing, which was why, I just don't understand why it took me so long to figure out this is really a unique story. They've been telling me my whole life all the places that they've been and all the people that they've met, and it took me forever to put it together and go, that's pretty unique, as people of color that you have these experiences. But yeah, they've had too many experiences, and a lot of it was like Forrest Gump, just shenanigans.
I love that. It's normally the kids that are involved in shenanigans, but this time around, it was the grandparents living their best life. I love that. All right, Shalee, what is your favorite story from an elder and influence about the great outdoors?
Um, I guess like my grandfather's story, and it's more just funny than anything, because I guess he was trying to look like a superhero to us when we were kids. So during the Cuban Revolution, like he came over on like the rafts, the makeshift rafts, and he always talks about how like the raft broke like in between, and he had to swim, and like he had to beat up a shark like in the process to show like he was a tough guy. He always did like this. He's I beat up the tiburon in the process. Which is so silly. He's like this frail old man, but he like swears still to this day. Um, so that, obviously it's a different experience than what it actually was, but it just shows me my grandfather's still trying to like make the best out of this situation, and also just like explain it to us at that age, because it was, we probably couldn't process it at that time, what it meant for him to do that.
That is amazing, because if it had been me and the shark would have won. So I'm proud of Grandpa. I'm glad that Grandpa versus Tiburon, was Grandpa winning. I love it. That is amazing. My grandfather was a hunter and fisherman, and he was known as one of the best fishermen in Mobile County. I'm from Mobile, Alabama, originally. And somewhere along the line, I made it up in my mind that he also grew sugar cane in his garden. That was not a fact. That was a story that I made up. He grew corn and mustard greens and collard greens, and then we would have deer meat and gravy and grits. We would have all types of different fish to eat. We were living a true organic experience before organic was made popular. So yeah, his stories live within me in a big way. So I want to talk about going from the large things to the small things. So we talked about how expansive the earth is and all of the untouched spaces. But what about those small journeys where you just simply step outside of your door and just get a bit of fresh air? Are you all doing any documenting of those more small micro outdoors moments?
I definitely am. I try not to take my phone outside when I go for well, it used to be a daily walk. Things got a little sketchy lately. But I try to go for a walk every day, and I try to take my phone because there's so many things now that you're a little bit more aware of your surroundings, or maybe I've gone around the same loop 1,000 times. But I am trying to document the butterflies or any plants or insects or anything that just happens to catch my eye when I go for a walk, because this moment as a gift, and realize there's so many things I wouldn't have seen otherwise during this time, because I wouldn't be walking every day. But I definitely try to document, and I'm trying to journal. That's not too successful, but it's a lot easier to take a phone out and take a picture than to write something down these days for me.
Yes. What about you, Shalee?
Yeah, actually I've been doing a lot of like identification bingo is what I like to call it. So it was actually Latino Conservation Week at the end of July, and like me and a couple other of my members created these at-home boxes for families. So we had to like test try everything. And identification bingo is like walking around and being able to identify different native, invasive, and edible species like within the backyard. So like right now it's like mango season just ended. Like everyone can identify that living in Miami. So we're trying to help kids learn like different other foods that they can eat they wouldn't necessarily know, like cocoa plum or even sherpine, which looks like a pineapple growing out of a tree, but it's just like another corn derivative that's sweet. Yeah, that's what I've been up to. I just like to walk around and see the things I can eat. My neighbors probably think I'm insane for constantly doing that. They're like, please don't eat our hedges, but okay.
No, it's good. It's, you know, we walk around and you see trees and you see plants and you don't realize that the degree to which they are resources, right? So it's not just giving us oxygen, it's giving us so much more. It's giving us fabulosity in the visual. It's giving us food, as Shalee is showing us. I have grapes in the backyard and lemon and peppers and a fig tree. I grow none of it. Someone else is growing it, but it is amazing to be surrounded, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Surrounded. Oh man. So we have Google Maps, right? We have the internet, right? We have all of these places that attempt to guide us through the great outdoors into places that we haven't been yet. What is it like to instead be guided by firsthand stories of moving to another place? What is it like when there's a person guiding you versus technology?
I I found that it's been more authentic, and I've always just been curious. For me, this journey has been about seeing at least one thing that my grandparents have seen in each state, and just maybe what it was about that particular spot that drew them there, or why my grandfather may have written the notes that he has. I think it just kind of gives a little bit of authority to it. Like, okay, this is something worth checking out. And my grandfather made a list of, he has a list of places worth seeing again. And it's a long list of the places he thought were worth seeing again. And one of the places I definitely did try to go to, but I just feel like it's more authentic because Google Maps, I mean, you could go anywhere. I mean, I appreciate it. I truly appreciate it because I was thinking about that the other day, just taking a trip somewhere. And I was like, what did we do before this? Like, you actually had to take a map out or maybe call and say, oh, how do you get there? And then make sure you wrote it down. But I think using someone else's story or their records to travel, I think it's just more endearing because then you have a little bit more of expectation, or at least for me, I had some expectation of seeing something or being in an environment that's worth seeing, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes, yes. So Shalee, what about you?
Pretty much the same, you know, like GPS, Google, all that. It's this very generic statement of more longitude, latitude. And like when it's a person, I feel like I'm being invited into knowing that, and that now I have that responsibility to share it with someone else and also be a part of it, like, and create my own experiences on top of it. So it's like a cake. It's adding to the layer of that cake to continue forth to have this like delicious slice and we all get to share. So yeah, so like an example is like Crystal, when I first moved to Colorado, took me out to one of the trails. I don't even remember what park now. And she's like, do you see that tree over there? Go smell it. Like, go put your nose on it. And I was like, okay. And it smelled like a caramel. It just had this like overwhelmingly sweet, like just smell to it. And I was like, oh, this is so amazing. So now like every time I see that tree when I was hiking and be like, Crystal taught me that, I'm gonna like pass that on and teach that to other people to smell this tree, as weird as it might look in the beginning. But like it just, you know, it's kind of like that badge of honor that you get to pass on.
I love that. Now I'm gonna go and smell the trees. Smell everyone. I try to touch plants. There's a plant outside that feels kind of velvety, and I call it the softest leaf. Don't know if that's verifiable information, but to me, it is the softest leaf and I enjoy it. So, you know, we've talked about you all's experiences, past and present in the great outdoors. And I want to know, what's your vision for the future of the outdoors industry? Where do you see this space going?
I see a lot of change. You know, we're all working towards the same thing and creating change and accessibility and safe spaces for all people to enjoy in any manner that they seem fit for them, as well as like outside of those that they never thought were possible. Yeah.
I completely agree. We're in the pivotal moment right now where I think, to not use a phrase that's often used, but I mean, people really are woke. People are finally waking up and hearing our voices and understanding that there needs to be some work done. And people like the people on the panel today are doing the work. There's a lot of more people out there that are doing work that I'm, discovering every day. But, I would like to see for the future that it won't be so rare to see someone else of color or someone else who's felt excluded from the outdoors to actually be there. Like, I should be able to count them on more than just one hand in the future as far as who's out there and who's represented and who feels comfortable. Because, in the future, I hope that that phrase "Black people don't ... is completely, erased from our conversation. It will no longer be people don't, the fill in the blank, don't whatever. For me, I see the future is going to be much brighter. It's going to take a lot of work, but, I think the more we show people that we're out there, that you too can be out there for whatever reason you want to be out there, whether it's fishing, camping, any other sort of outdoor recreational activities, or just breathing, because we're all taking a deep breath right now when we go outside. That's what I hope the future will be, is you don't have to explain why you're not seen out there, and that we appreciate it, because that's, to me, that's the other important part. Even if we're out there, I feel like we all need to understand how important it is to maintain and conserve it, because it's one thing to visit, but it's also another thing to feel strong enough about it, and convinced that we need to do what we need to do to make sure it's here for the next generation.
Yes. Yes. So, Shalee, how many salmon exist in the future?
Ooh, man, it depends on the species of salmon, because there are already some that are considered endangered species on a federal level. State level, I don't know. It varies. Like Atlantic salmon as a whole is already extinct. It's only existing as a farmed creature due to our consumption rate. So it just varies how we market like other fish to eat, and also how we responsibly consume, because we're trying to play like God in that aspect, and it's not working to this date. I don't know. That's like a really tricky question, because it just varies like on how our government is going to handle things moving forward.
Well, let me say, how many salmon will exist in the future due to the continual playing of epic R&B tracks? Okay, all right. What's that future like? Take me to that future.
Man, I hope a lot. Like, selfishly for me, I hope a lot, because I enjoy salmon a lot. But maybe if we all just with our iPhone next to the river playing whatever our preferred tracks are, I would hope a lot.
I love that. I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna play R&B music for the plants that are here. They're gonna get a dose of musicality, all right? And nobody's gonna be able to say that Black people don't play music for their plants, okay? No one is gonna be able to say that.
Yeah.
So, what was that, Carla?
No, I'm ready. I'm ready to go to the salmon with the music. I'm on board. Sign me up. Sign me up.
Sign you up. Sign you up. Well,
Yep.
I was wondering if you all would participate in a little bit of call and response with me. It's going to require 2 hands and the willingness to clap. Would you be willing to do it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Ready? Through line. Clap, clap. Through line.
Through line.
Through line, clap, clap, through line. Okay, hold on. We got to get on beat. Everybody's got to get on beat. Okay.
It's the internet.
It's the internet. Okay, y'all ready? Let's try it again. Through line. Through line. But in the spirit of the internet, that clap was just heard around San Diego, California. Where are you, Carla?
I'm in Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland. Yep. And where are you, Shali?
Miami, Florida.
In Miami, Florida. Absolutely. That clap traveled. Okay. All right. It traveled. So, Carla, you want more Black folks, more Indigenous folks, more people of color to be outside, because that really is, we've always been outside. We've always had a beautiful relationship with nature, and that's been severed for a lot of different reasons, right? For me personally, it was severed because I have allergies, right? Thankfully, I don't have as many allergies in the Pacific Northwest, so I can just like go outside. So talk to me specifically, where are the 3 places, or what are the 3 things that Black folks, Indigenous folks, people of color have got to do in this future outdoors?
Don't be afraid. I mean, don't be afraid. The bugs, everything is going to be out there. So, you know, I just know it's different for everyone. Everyone finds whatever it is it's their calling outside. So I don't want to say what people should do. I just think they need to find out what it is that they like to do, and just not be afraid to experiment or try all the things, because you won't know if you like it until you try it. You know, if you've had a hankering for you know, whitewater rafting, go for it. I mean, if you want to climb, go for it. You know, just see what those organizations are that are willing to help people who haven't been out there before. So just be open. I also think socializing in the outdoors is a great way to get to know your friends and your family, and it's easy. All you need to do is take some food, whatever drink you want to drink or not drink, you know, just take baby steps if you need to. And you know, I don't know. I think I'll leave it at 2. I know that wasn't the request, but I think the main thing is just get out there. Like, it's just that simple. Just find, again, some of us may find ourselves with extra time right now. Just find some place, and it doesn't have to be super exotic or one of the big national parks, which are great to go to, but even that's kind of a double-edged sword. A lot of people are traveling to the same places and disrupting the ecosystems in some of those more popular places. But you know, most places have green spaces. Even if you're in an urban environment, there's a green space somewhere, or find a state park that's probably right behind your house, you know, within 10 miles. And just be willing to explore and be open to the idea that this could be something worth including in your lifestyle. Because I don't think COVID's going away, unfortunately, anytime soon. And I know for me personally, just being able to get outside has been a huge therapy. And I mean, it'll remain that way even after COVID. It's definitely a place to retreat to. So just be open, and make it a priority, especially if you have kids. Like, get off the technology. You know, things have changed so much as far as you know, this idea of, like I said before, exploring and playing. You know, I don't know if a lot of kids these days know what to do when they go outside. Like, that's the other thing. Some kids are just like, well, what am I supposed to do? And then the fact that you have to explain that, I'm just like, we've got a lot of work to do. Just, you know, just go out and just enjoy it and be that inner child and explore. But yeah, just don't be afraid to go out there.
Yes. What about you, Shirley?
For me, it's like specific to like hunting and fishing and overall foraging is like for our government agencies to step it the F up and to like have programs available to the public in different languages, in different access of accessibility, whether it's like through 508 compliancy and as well as through representation. So hiring of more people through different backgrounds so that everyone does feel like they belong in that space, because that's like literally like number one to start with. The second thing I would say is like, if you have a skill, like introduce it to people because they want to see themselves like in somebody else out there. So if I know someone that's interested in fishing, like I can take them out there and show them, and then they can continue that domino effect, you know, elsewhere, and how, you know, how to be responsible and also how to enjoy the outdoors. And yeah, and just like having materials and just accessibility through a lot of other programs, like through our library system, through our school education, through overall marketing that like government and just other organizations do, to show that anything is possible. And like, you know, we just have to show them like they belong there, and like we all belong there. This is our space, that's our food. Like we have to be the outdoor protectors and leaders that we want others to be.
I love that. Well, as we head towards the final stretch of this conversation on the intergenerational outdoors, I want to take it back to the youth, the youngsters. So, what is it that you are creating that you want to give to the next generations that come? And it might be something that you're already creating. It might be something that you want to create in the future.
I want, at least for the next generation, to feel like they could be Captain Planet and like actually make a career out of it instead of like not, you know, because there are different ways to do it. You STEM is available if that's something you want to do, but you can also incorporate filming and being conservationist or like storytelling, or you can literally combine as many things as you want, as well as like the outdoors, and like that space is available for you. And it's that, yeah, I just want kids to know like you can be here, and like that I'm here to support you in that.
I love that. Now I'm hearing, what was it? Earth, wind, fire, rain, snow. I don't remember all of them. We are Captain Planet.
Yeah, he turns 30 next month, so.
Oh, Captain Planet is 30. I can't believe it. That's right, with our powers combined. Our Captain Planet. So what about you, Carla? What do you want to create or already have created that you want to leave for the next generation in the outdoors?
For me personally, I think it's the idea of legacy. I don't have kids of my own yet. I don't know if I will, but I do have a niece and a nephew who are the closest things I have to children right now. And for me to be able to share what my grandparents have shared with my sister and I want them to have as well. They used to travel with my parents when my parents had a trailer, and they looked forward to that time in the summer. And it was that same excitement that my sister and I would have when we would spend time with our grandparents in West Virginia when they had their trailer parked. But I just want to be able to continue that excitement and that sense of belonging and that sense of you know, true adventure with them. And for, you know, any kids that they have or just down the line that, you know, this, like you said earlier, Jordan, like this is like we're all living on the same planet. Like this is the home for everyone. And for me, I just want them to remember that, like, without all the noise and the distraction, like, this is our home and you're part of it. You know, no one can deny that. And I just want them to be able to feel like this, it's their home, whether or not you're in your house or down the street or decide to go somewhere around the corner. But that's really what I just want, that legacy of like, this country is yours. You're just as much a part of it as anyone else. So therefore you should have all the opportunity to see whatever it is that you want to see, and, you know, peel up every rock underneath all of it. I'll be right there with you as long as I can. But that's really what I want them to. You know, I want my niece and nephew to, you know, wake up one day when they're my age and go, I really had an amazing time, you know. And I'm gonna take my kids camping, and we're gonna get an RV or, you know, anything like that. I'd be really grateful for.
Amazing. Well, this has been a very, very beautiful conversation. I'm already pumped to go out, go outside, spend more time, walk more, play more music for everybody, including myself, and become the salmon that I was meant to become. Like I love that, you know, there was this idea of like, you know, I have a lot in common with the salmon that you picked up, that you said, Shalee. So if we want to continue a journey and connect with you all, where can we find you and what are you up to currently?
I can be found at everyone but two, the number two, TWO. That's pretty much my handle for everything, but you can see what I'm doing there pretty much every day if you want.
I am just freelancing right now and helping small environmentally focused businesses start up in regards to like person of color businesses. And I just want to take more of the space to shout out Inclusive Journeys and what Crystal is working on. So you can follow her and Parker's work at Inclusive Journeys on Instagram, Facebook, website, and you know, be a part of that and support them.
Yes, and Inclusive Journeys is creating a digital green book, so a digital version of the original Negro Green Book, where a mapping of the places that were anywhere from safe and welcoming to relatively safe and welcoming for Black folks in the, I want to say, did it start in the 50s, 60s?
I think it started in the 50s. I think the last publication was 65.
Yes. Yeah, published. It's so beautiful. And as I think about taking a road trip to see my parents right now, I'm like, shoot, I need a green book. Let's go. Let's go. So I'm very excited for that. Well, as we round out this hour, I just want to hear, what's your favorite plant and what message of gratitude would you like to give to that plant today?
Oh, wow. I mean, mine's pretty general. I love flowers. I think flowers are like the biggest and most obvious sign that there's something bigger than us to be able to create colors and patterns. So that always brings joy to me. And pineapple plant, because who doesn't love pineapple? Just thank you, pineapple.
Thank you, pineapple.
I think I'm gonna go with the velvet deer, which is a very soft leaf. And I like it only because it's like a random fact my uncle taught me on a trail that it's always available as toilet paper if you need it while you're out, because it's so soft and it's not gonna irritate you. So velvet deer, if you ever see it, just know you can wipe with it.
That was an excellent, excellent ending. Thank you so much for being here with us. My name is Jordan Hales, and you are watching the Throughline Conference presented by Black Earth United. We are looking at the throughline between the outdoor industry, from the products that are created to the people who are enjoying those products, to the explorers and people who dare to increase our knowledge, understanding, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Giving special shout outs always to those who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color who are braving that journey. Thank you so much.